Alright, Job. I like Job. I wrote a really awesome summary of it, but that's not what these notes are about. So, um, one thing I'm thinking about for improving these are doing multiple takes, so this might just be the first take, but maybe not, who knows, maybe it's going to be good enough. Anyway, idea number one is in regards to, well, I think it would be appropriate for these notes to be a little bit less core idea and synthesis and a little bit more what is this book even about, because this is such a kind of mysterious book to me and to I think a lot of people. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that, and that is I think talk about Job and theodicy a lot, and how Job, we say that Job is saying, why is this evil happening to me, God? And then God says, were you there when I created the world? I didn't think so. And so some people want to take that as an attitude for theodicy. Don't say, why is this evil happening? Just trust God. Trust God. Trust God. And I think there's some truth in that, but I'm going to assert that Job isn't saying, why is this evil happening to me? When he says, I want God to hear me, but he's not hearing me. Rather, he's saying, it's not even, I don't think it's even a question. I don't think he's asking God anything. If he's asking God anything, it's what did I do wrong? But mainly I think he's demanding God to fix his suffering now. So he'd say, I wish that God would hear me when I am saying, fix this right now. You used to be blessing me and now you're cursing me, and I didn't change my actions. And that's not cool, God. You need to fix this now. So Job is impatient and Job is short-sighted. I'll explain. Those are related, but I'll explain them both. I am taking a negative view of Job. I do think he messes up because he repents at the end. Obviously, he must have messed up if he's repenting. That's, I think, fairly obvious. God does says that you have not spoken well as my servant Job has. That's true because the answers that the three friends give are treating God as any of the other gods, like an idol, treating him like a source of, like a power source that you just have to treat in the right ritualistic ways and he'll bless you. And that's not how God works. Job understands how God works big picture wise, but he's using his big picture idea of God to apply to even the instant, which is not the case. God doesn't always immediately punish the wicked or immediately bless the righteous. And I think so, like I said, so that this is coming into Job is short-sighted. He can't, he knows God as a big picture, but he can't see that God's plan will be carried out in its entirety within the entirety of time. By the end of time, although there's not going to be an end of time, like eventually, basically, God's plan will come to pass. That is true, but he doesn't see that as being sufficient. He wants it to be right now, and that's something that God has decided is not going to be the case. So Job is short-sighted. His friends are also short-sighted because they say, well, you have to repent right now, and you have to do good right now, and then he'll bless you right now. And that's not true. And similarly, he's impatient. I think I think probably it's not just that he doesn't know that God will do this, because he believes that God is great, and I think he believes that God is just. So he should be able to say, well, if I just wait longer, you know, or like this would be a problem if this lasts forever, so God, do something about this eventually, I know you will, would be a wiser thing to say. Even if you're short-sighted, I think you'd be able to say something like that. But he's impatient. He has the vice of impatience. So even if he were to know that, I'm not sure if he does, the suffering is too much for him to handle. Like, it's going through his flesh. Like, he doesn't falter until Satan attacks his flesh. So, like, well, with all the other sufferings that he's had, it's now become so much that he is unable to endure. His endurance has been maxed out, and he now demands God to act at once. And as Elihu says, no, God has a plan. You are a part of that plan. Your suffering is a part of that plan, and you should be okay with that. But the fact that you're saying God needs to do this right now is speaking against God, and we know that God is just. Therefore, you're speaking against a just thing. Therefore, you are guilty. You are impatient. You are denying God's plan. You're denying God's providence in your suffering. And that is bad. And you are guilty, and you should repent. But his tactic for saying that is big picture, whereas the three friends is small picture, because they treat God like an idol, but Elihu, I think, treats him like the Lord. And then God's response, that's, I think, what James refers to Job as a compassionate story, a story of God's compassion and mercy. I think it comes in that God doesn't have to respond, because Job is just being impatient. And I think God actually doesn't answer, well, I need to think about that more, but God doesn't answer why these bad things are happening, because that's not Job's question. Job is demanding God to do something about it at once, and then God says, no, I'm not going to do it depending on your wants. I am going to restore you when I see fit, and you don't get to tell me what to do. I'm God, I created the world, and you did not. And then Job's like, well, I'm sorry, I repent. You are trustworthy, I'm not. Your plan is magnificent, and I trust for you to restore my blessings when you see fit. And then God does. Like, the next thing that happens might have been much later, it might have been immediately after, but he returns to blessing Job, and thus we see that God is just. Yeah. And so the mercy and compassion comes in that God steps in and tells Job what he needs to hear, namely, I'm trustworthy, trust me. This will work out for the best. Core idea, trust in God, and not obedience or fear of the Lord, is necessary to sustain you through sufferings. Fear of the Lord and obedience to the Lord are great, but they will falter and if you aren't trusting the Lord when sufferings come. Sufferings are both an intellectual attack and a heart attack, and trust is both an intellectual and a heart defense. And you might put trust in relation to fear of the Lord somehow, which is fine, whatever. But I think the message of Job is trust me and be patient. And that patience is built upon the trust. Job gets there. Elihu is there, and his three friends are never there and never end up there. No sense of this, because Job is so much its own thing. Man, I mean, it also really goes together, but it just speaks about God in a very different way. So no synthesis. Sorry.